Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important.
There comes a point in every great comeback story when the people who doubted you are forced to sit quietly and watch as you prove them completely wrong. For Caitlin Clark, that moment has finally arrived in a huge way. For nearly 2 years, sports media powerhouse Stephen A. Smith had been loudly speaking about this situation, and after everything that recently unfolded at the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualification tournament in Puerto Rico, he now has the evidence to support every claim he made. To truly understand why this moment matters, you have to rewind to where the controversy first started, June 2024, when USA Basketball revealed its 12-player roster for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, and shockingly, Clark's name was missing. The backlash was immediate and intense because Clark had just finished one of the most electrifying college careers ever seen in women's basketball. She shattered the all-time scoring record in NCAA Division I women's basketball, carried Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball to back-to-back national championship appearances, and turned the sport into must-watch television across the country. She had become a cultural phenomenon unlike anything the WNBA had ever experienced, yet she was told she was not good enough to wear the red, white, and blue on the biggest international stage. Fans were furious, analysts were stunned, and Stephen A. Smith was absolutely livid. On ESPN's First Take he blasted the decision, calling it exactly what he believed it was: idiotic. He clarified that the argument was not about whether Clark was the most polished player in the world. She was still a rookie transitioning to the professional level. But his point went deeper. Marketing matters, promotion matters, and building a global brand for women's basketball matters. Leaving the most marketable player the sport had ever seen at home while Team USA flew to Paris was, in his words, flat-out foolish. Smith also predicted something bold. Without Clark, attendance at Team USA games would decline. Many critics mocked the prediction at the time, yet events later proved him correct. Team USA traveled to Paris, competed strongly, and captured the gold medal, but the team recorded the lowest attendance numbers of any basketball team at the Olympic venue, an uncomfortable statistic for a program that had dominated the sport for decades. Meanwhile, Clark was drawing massive crowds across the WNBA, filling arenas in cities that had rarely sold out women's basketball games before, making the contrast impossible to ignore. Even Dawn Staley, one of the most respected figures in the game and a member of the Olympic Selection Committee, later acknowledged that if the decision were made again, Clark, based on her performance, would deserve serious consideration. The comment was a significant shift from someone who had previously supported the roster choice, and naturally Stephen A. Smith returned to television declaring that he had warned everyone from day one. Yet the story did not end in Paris because another dimension of the controversy had been quietly developing, involving Team USA head coach Cheryl Reeve, who also led the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA. Before the Olympic roster announcement, Reeve posted comments on social media that appeared to criticize the league for promoting Clark's preseason games more heavily than other players, even though Clark was still under consideration for the national team. Journalists and fans noticed immediately, and columnist Christine Brennan publicly criticized the situation, arguing that it was inappropriate for the national team coach to comment in such a way while evaluating a potential player. Reeve insisted the comments were misunderstood and claimed they were about equal promotion across the league rather than about Clark personally. However, public perception had already shifted and the controversy continued to grow. When reporters later asked Reeve directly about Clark's national team future, her sharp response, "Why the hell would I answer a national team question?" spread rapidly across social media, intensifying suspicion among Clark supporters who believed something beyond pure basketball evaluation had influenced the Olympic decision. Eventually, change arrived. After the Paris Olympics, Reeve's tenure ended, and in September 2025 Kara Lawson of Duke Blue Devils women's basketball was appointed as the new head coach of the national program, marking a fresh beginning. One of Lawson's earliest signals came when she announced a December 2025 training camp roster at Duke that included Caitlin Clark for the first time. The message was unmistakable. The page had turned and Clark would finally receive an opportunity to represent her country at the senior level. However, there was one complication. Throughout the 2025 WNBA season, Clark struggled with injuries, including a groin strain and a bone bruise, limiting her to just 13 games and preventing her from fully regaining rhythm. By February 2026, when USA Basketball selected her for the World Cup qualifying roster in Puerto Rico, she had not played competitive basketball in 239 days, nearly 8 months away from the court, yet instead of faltering under pressure, she delivered immediately. In the tournament opener against Senegal, she came off the bench and produced 17 points and 12 assists in only 19 minutes, recording one of the most impressive debuts in recent international play. She did not simply shake off rust, she dominated. The momentum continued as assistant coach Nate Tibbetts later inserted her into the starting lineup against New Zealand and structured the offense around her playmaking strengths. The outcome was decisive, with Team USA winning 101-46 while Clark contributed 14 points and 6 assists in just 23 minutes. By the end of the tournament, the United States finished with a perfect 5-0 record and defeated Spain 84-70 in the final matchup. And when the official MVP award was announced by FIBA, the result surprised nobody: Caitlin Clark. In her first senior national team tournament, she led all players with 58 points and 32 assists across 5 games while shooting more than 52% from the field and averaging 2 3-pointers per game, confirming exactly what Stephen A. Smith had argued since 2024, that when Clark is allowed to play freely, she elevates the entire team, energizes the audience, fills arenas, and amplifies the visibility of women's basketball worldwide. The United States has now qualified for the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup scheduled in Germany later this year, and although the final roster has not yet been announced, after Clark's remarkable performance in Puerto Rico, the possibility of leaving her off the team again feels almost impossible to imagine. Returning from injury, carrying years of criticism and debate, and walking away with the tournament MVP trophy, she forced the entire basketball world to witness the same reality. Sometimes the loudest critics are simply the earliest believers, and sometimes the most powerful answer is delivered not through words but through performance on the court.